I'm out here by the highway on my lunch break or breakfast break, brunch break, whatever you want to call it. And I'm standing by the highway. Interesting spot. There's where I work. The wonderful spot where I work. There's a little creek, whatever you want to call it. Interesting. Anyway, I'll share some controversial things that's going to go against all modern religion. Really. It's going to go against what your grandma told you, what your grandpa told you, what your pastor told you, what your evangelist told you. See, and this is the funny thing. If you're noticing, I'm not saying it's going to go against what God told you. And if you're upset because those people told you things, it could be that you were listening to man and not God. Whoa. Straight up. And that's the problem, see? That's the whole problem right there. We listen to man. Don't check out that Corvette. That's sweet. We listen to man and not God. That's our whole problem. You know, we try to verify the truth of God's word by man, which is the most stupidest thing we could ever do. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. We go and we sit there, at one time heard God's truth, and then the majority of people start following ideas of man, and we join up right away and say, hey, everybody else is doing it, I might as well do it. Well, if you look from what God does, if you look from the history of God himself, there was only 12. Only 12. You can also hear him say there was many widows in the time of Elijah. And Elijah was only sent to one widow. There were many lepers. And he was only sent to one leper. Name, and it even names him. See? And that's the controversy, guys. That's the whole controversy right there. Because, let's see here. Welcome to chat. Oh, good. If you want to chat, you can chat. If you have questions, bust them out. So the controversy comes because, like I said before, and I'll say it again and I'll say it, and it's scriptural. It's not my own ideas. God intended for man to fall in the garden. That's why he put the tree there. He wanted man to fall. And of course, most would think right now, I better not listen to this guy because that's blasphemy. No, it's not. You can believe that God went to a cross. You know, the Son of God went to a cross. Well, there he died. In the garden, man died. The intention was to die. Hello. Anyway, it's going to go against, like I said, all your beliefs about this and beliefs about that. But I got to share it. Because for too long, the religious ideas have dominated, have taken over, have literally destroyed, if you will, people's hopes. Well, let me share this with you, because this is pretty cool. I never got the idea, okay, and I've shared it before, but I'll say it again. I never got the idea that a God who is all-knowing, I like to use those words, omnipotent, ominous, omnipotent, all that stuff. Why would he allow people to go and destroy themselves? Why would he do that? It makes no sense. But then, of course, here comes the scholarly, crazy people that say, oh, you know what? Guess what? He gave them choice. Well, they don't know what they're talking about either, and I'll prove it to you right now. Okay? He gave them free will. They have no idea what they're talking about. Now, take in mind, when God made man, Man was never, ever, ever thought of before. Just like if you never had children before, the first child that you have is basically never been around before till they were born. Okay, period. You're not going to take that child, that little tiny baby, put him in a room full of broken glass and go, well, they got to learn. So, no, you're not going to do that. That's stupid. Well, neither is God. God's not going to do that. Okay? Now, let's deal with that idea of choice first and foremost. I have to ask you this. What is involved in choice? What is it that's involved with the ability to make a choice? Most people say, well, choosing, free will, all that junk. No. In order to make a sound choice, you have to have the full information of what you're choosing from. If you don't have the full information of what you're choosing from, you will not make a sound choice, period. You won't. So, nobody takes a set of car keys, hands them to a one-day-old baby and say, go ahead and drive. They just wouldn't do that. Look at this old car here. They just wouldn't do that. It's stupid. They don't have the information. They can't process the information. So you see Adam and Eve being just brand new, and God's saying to them, don't eat of the tree, for in the day that you eat it, you will die. You will surely die. They don't know what death is, folks. They have no idea at all what death is. They really don't. All they are is partaking of life at that moment. Even us, we have no idea. I mean, no, we like to guess. Most people try to write books and say, oh, I went here and I went there. Well, I'm going to tell you why some of those people write those books. When you purchase that book, look at the back of it. Or remember the price you paid. That's why they made that book. Honestly. I remember one time I was at some people's house and they had a book about someone that went to hell. And I asked them, I said, hey, why do you have that book? And they said, oh, I asked them, is it a travel brochure? Are you going to go there someday? Is that why you have that? Of course, they were a little upset about it, but I was like, why do you have that? You know, well, we want to scare people into heaven. That's not what it does. That's not what God intended. God didn't intend for people to be scared of hell to follow him. See, because I'll tell you something. If someone is with me because they're scared of me, they're not really with me. Hello? Now, we'll deal with the fear thing. I know, because the Bible says fear of God. We'll deal with that. Not yet at the moment, but we will. Okay, so going back to this now. When God put man in the garden with woman, and I say it like that for a reason, because it's woman. She came out of man, as the Bible teaches. Okay. And so here, he puts them in the garden, and he gives them some information, but they have no full information, so they cannot make a sound choice. Now, if you notice, it's the woman. Now, there's a lot of teachings on that too, which is baloney. But they try to say, well, he shouldn't have left her, because if he wouldn't have left her, she might not have eaten it. Baloney. See, I'm going to give you the reason, okay? Now, here's the thing, folks. The representation of the garden is not paradise. It's not any of that stuff that we were told. Okay? Because I'll give you something. The man who was blind, and Jesus opened his eyes, he asked him, what do you see? He said, I see men as trees walking. Then the Bible even tells us you'll know them by their fruits. Then it goes on to say the fruits of the Spirit. Hello? So in actuality, we're a garden. Crazy, right? No, but true. Okay, going back to this now. It wasn't about that. It was a representation of God himself, because he was made, man was made in the image of God. Man was made in the image of God. Of course, woman was made for the glory of man. That's what the Bible teaches. I can't go against that. We'll get into that stuff later on. There's more teachings on it, but we're dealing with the representation of the garden right now. Okay. So I'm only going to do 20 minutes today because I got to get back to work. I only get an hour, so I spent the first half hour eating. Now I'm doing this for 20 minutes, so I'll cut it off, but I'll join back in again later. Okay, so going back to this now. So here we go, and let me say this. Let me tell you this. There's an idea, if you will. There's a pretty cool idea about how Lutheranism states that there's no spirit. So once you're dead, it's over. That's what Lutheranism says. So the guy asked him, he said, well, how's that possible? And of course, the Lutheran guy tells him, and this is not the first argument of this, folks, I'm telling you. Even the Bible teaches how the Sadducees, the Pharisees, had a different idea. Okay, they had different ideas. They said, well, there's no spirit. And the Pharisees said, no, there is a spirit. Now, most of you would side with the Pharisees. You know, well, they're right, because there is a spirit. The Sadducees are, but they both use the Bible. I'm going to tell you right now why both are wrong. They're both wrong because Jesus was right there and they didn't even know it. Hello. And that's the problem with us today. Jesus is right there and we don't even know it. We stand by an idea. We stand by a religion. We stand by a ministry. We stand by those things. And Jesus is right there and we don't even know it. Okay. So the Sadducee says there is no spirit. And Paul saw this. Paul knew this. So he brought the argument up to them. You can read it in Acts, where he brings the hope. And all of a sudden, the Sadducees, who were both against him at that time, split up. Because the Pharisees claimed, that there is a spirit. And the Sadducees didn't. So there's your division right there. Okay, so this idea of what Lutheranism says is not new. It's always been around. Because it's easier to deal with, I don't want nothing after this. It's easier to deal with that. Anyway, it's like ignoring a problem. It's easier. So anyway, Sadducees go and it's funny how Jesus used to preach out in the fields, way out there. Look where I'm at. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Well, besides the highway there, but kind of cool. Anyway, so here, Lutheranism, this gentleman asked, what is it? And he said, well, do you remember before you were born? He said, no. He said, well, it's like that. But see, here's where the problem is, folks. Because if you are your parents, then in fact, you were in your parents, which means you were here before you were here. Hello. Think about that. So that's a horrible argument. That's a terrible argument. Okay, so anyway, going back to this now. So, before mankind was thought of at all, there was God in heaven. All right? There was God in heaven. Again, this is before mankind was ever even considered, ever even thought of. Honestly, this is way before. Look at it this way. No earth, no countries, nothing. Okay, no planets, nothing. Just God and the angels. That's it. That's all there is at this time that I'm speaking on. You can find it. It's in Isaiah 14. It's in Ezekiel 28. And it speaks on how God was with his angels, and one of them, if you will, turned against him. Okay? Now here's the odd thing. In all of time itself, in all of what went on during that time, That had never been done before. Okay, period. So when Lucifer turns against God, he says it, I will be like the Most High. And I know we're told that, be like Jesus. The Bible does not teach that. That's Satan's idea. I'm going to be like the Most High. Now notice, he didn't say he was going to be more than God. He didn't say he was going to be higher than God. He just said, I'm going to be like him. Now that's the funny thing. The reason Satan could not get above God, that's why the Bible calls God the highest. That's what it says, the highest, meaning you cannot get above God. That's heavy duty. That's heavy duty. God could be below you, but he's still above you because he's God. Now that's powerful. You see? Anyway, going back to this now. So, and it's odd. It's odd because when Satan, I'm just looking at the minutes here. Like I said, I'll do 20, 25 minutes tops. When Satan goes against God, immediately God is already doing something. Period. Honestly. At the same time, though, he's wondering how this could happen. Now, I know we're always told God knows everything. Well, we can read in Scripture where it says, he made him sin who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him. He made him sin who knew no sin. So he had no idea what that was. He had no idea what sin was. Okay, good. So anyway, going back to this now. Yeah, I thought I saw somebody. Oh, well, never mind. So going back to this now. When he goes and and this occurs, this happens, where Satan goes against him. He goes and he knows right what to do. Now, this is the thing. This is what we're taught. This is what we're told. And it is not true at all. I hate to say this, but it's true that it's not true. We're told that Satan tricked the third of the angels. Okay? No. Here's what I asked God about. I said, how did that happen? You know, they weren't tricked, folks. Now, we know what a plague is. We know what a virus is. And the virus is really bad. It spreads quick. The only way to contain it is to quarantine. Yes, quarantine. So I asked God, I said, well, how come just a third? See, and I'll tell you something. Again, it's going to go against a lot of your teachings. But he stopped it at the third. God is the one that stopped it at the third. Otherwise, it would have took all of them. Period. So if you will, Satan and the third were quarantined, taken away. But since all this happened in the spirit, it couldn't be dealt in a manner that we like to deal with stuff, right? Crime, lock them up, right? That's how we deal with stuff. Fire, put it out. Sick, give them medicine. See? That's not how the spirit is dealt with, because the spirit is eternal, even Satan. So it had to be dealt with eternally. Now let me tell you something. While Satan is going against God, excuse me, let me say it like this. Before Satan went against God, God is still God. While Satan is going against God, God is still God. After Satan went against God, God is still God. It didn't change him. He didn't change into something else. He didn't become something else, okay? Let me tell you that right now. He is still God regardless. None of it changed him at all. I just want you to know that. Okay, so here we are. It's already 20 minutes almost, so I'm going to close out. I'll share some more later. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.